Okay, we're going to begin the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen meeting. It's Wednesday, July 25th, and it's 5 o'clock. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go to item 2, approval of the minutes, June 20th, 2018, Select Board meeting, July 5th, 2018, Select Board meeting, July 9th, 2018, Select Board special meeting, July 23rd, 2018, Select Board Parks and Rec workshop.
I'll make a motion to approve all 4 minutes as read.
Those in favor? It's unanimous. On item 3, review of treasurer's warrants. A, payroll 96, 99, and 103. B, accounts payable 95, 97, 98, 100, 101, and 102.
Make a motion to approve all.
Second?
Any further? None? We vote. It's 3 in favor. Open session, 2 minutes for anyone who would like to speak. Okay, we're all set. Selectmen's concerns, item 5. First of all, we have a guest coming at 6, is that correct?
That is correct.
So, that's hopeful. I mean, we may be finished before they get there, but.
Oh, do we know who that guest is?
Yes,
Oh,
it's
okay.
Seth.
Elderkin.
Oh, okay.
So, Selectmen's concerns, anybody have anything they want to start with?
Well, I do. I noticed that we all got an email, and from Melissa Randall, and I just have some questions about, her requests. And, if Lois, you could walk us through how we're going to manage the request.
Well, it was a FOIA request.
FOIA
Yeah, we all
request,
got, we were all
yes.
CC'd on an email that was sent to you.
Yes. And it seems, so I
It's
just wanted.
substantial.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that looked like a large volume of work for somebody in the office to do.
That's what I thought, and so I was wondering, how this gets handled.
Well, so I have to give her an estimate. I have 5 days to respond to her request. But in that response to her, I have to acknowledge that I received it, and I can ask for more clarification. I mean, she's asked for everything from A to Z for invoices. It is a large volume. I have from January to now, and we've been filing them alphabetically, so they're not all attached to the warrants anymore. So I have to go through and I have to make sure that there's anything that needs redacting, because even though they are public documents, there still may be information on there, like our health insurance. You're not allowed to know what plan we have, or our ID numbers as far as that goes. So there's information that have to be redacted. So that is a significant amount of time to go through 6 to 7 months worth of invoices. And when I talked to MMA Legal, they also recommended that, because she's not asking for copies, she's just asking for viewing, and so we have to allow her to view those, but I have to monitor while she's viewing, because I need to make sure that the integrity of the document is maintained, that it's not being mixed up with other documents, that they stay in the proper order for the compiling purposes. As far as the payroll warrants,
She specifically asked for payroll for all Sangerville town employees and any hourly contract. I was concerned, the employee thing jumped out at me because social security numbers, we probably are obligated to not share all of that.
That's exactly it. You cannot even share like deductions that, you're not allowed to know how much I pay in my taxes or how much I pay
Okay.
for.
Right.
So I have to, again, in that particular, I'm going to have to make photocopies of the warrant, just the front page of the warrant that you guys sign. And that just gives, so that's gonna be fees there. The documentation that she's asking for in reference to, commitment purposes, whatever the documents are that was used, but there are some questions that she's asked, who did it, and, how did they arrive at those figures? If it's not something that is in writing, then I can't answer it. I cannot create a record to answer those questions. I can provide the documentation that was used, where we arrived at the numbers, expenses, revenues, that sort of thing, but I'm not required to answer the questions if there's no document. And the last question she's asking for is my assessor's certification. As you know, I assisted you doing the commitment, and that's part of my duty is to make sure that your job is done and you are the Board of Assessors in addition to the Board of Selectmen. There is no law against me assisting you in that manner, that I am at your beck and call because I am your employee. And so she's asking for my certification. I will have to find that. So I'm going to charge for the time to find that because I'm not an appointed assessor. I have not been
So she may be
hired.
under the impression that you are for some reason. That's possible.
Exactly. And so because I'm not an appointed assessor's agent or so that document does not exist in the town office. I have it at home. I will provide it simply for transparency purposes. But as far as 1 and 2, it's looking like it's going to be a significant number of hours. Just in my discussion with MMA, just being to monitor they figure probably 4, 5, 6 hours. And so if I have to compile them ahead of time, 4 or 5 hours, monitor 4 or 5 hours, the payroll, this, so we're looking at a significant dollar figure, and I have to give an estimate ahead of time if it's going to be over $100, and state law says we can require that estimate be paid before services.
Well, you also must have to calculate what it's gonna cost to take care of all this information.
Well,
if it's gonna take you 4 or 5 hours to get all this dug out, and then all this other time.
Refile it.
You're gonna have to refile all this, so that's even more time.
it is more time, and so that's taking me away from my other job duties and responsibilities. It depends on if one of the other office staff, we get to charge for both people, not just one person. So it is a significant request that we're looking at, a significant amount of time.
But they get a heads up as to what it's gonna cost before you do it.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, I was concerned about that part of it too, as to what the taxpayers were gonna be.
Right, because, so all of your hours that you will spend doing this and/or our other office staff doing it will be paid for.
Well, we can charge $15 an
Yeah,
hour
remember the
by state
workshop we went to?
statute.
There was a maximum
Yeah, okay.
hourly
there's a-
rate.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's set by statute.
okay. So that's separate time that you'll be spending doing that.
So that's what I was wondering about with the cost that's gonna get accrued. You can request for that up front.
Yes.
So that way there we know that, it's for one person, so at least we know that sum of money would be being paid rather than you spending all that time and effort into something.
And then they refuse
Then
to
somebody
pay
says,
after
I'm
the
not gonna
fact.
pay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
any other selectmen's concerns?
I have a few.
What's that?
I have a few.
Do you want to go right ahead?
Alright.
We have plenty of time.
No, I did get a few phone calls since we met last. One call was regarding the paving on Silver's Mills. Actually asking when we were gonna finish the paving on Silver's Mills because we had all this money allocated and wanted to know when the rest of it was going to be being spent. I explained to them how we did that, and the distance that we got was because we were gonna spend the $110,000, so it's Pike's judgment when to make that swing. I would assume we're gonna be pretty close to that dollar amount, but until everything comes in, we could be a few $1,000s off one way or another. They were very surprised that that's the little distance that we got done for the money, which I tried to explain, I probably failed. So with that being said, one thing that I did ask the citizen asked me to bring up, could we find out what it would cost to pave the rest of the Silver's Mills? And have a dollar number, and we could talk about that, so I said I would bring that up. The other thing, there's a hidden drive sign on Silver's Mills that's not been down from plowing, they wanna know about getting that put up. I said I would bring that up as
I
well.
have seen that, and I see it when I drive by, and then I forget it.
Yep, I just told them I'd bring it up again. The broken tree that's on Silver's Mills.
Yeah. I've talked to a contractor.
Okay, and the other thing is, it's mainly stemming from McFeeters Road, but I was out in through East Sangerville, and I think there's definitely more than just McFeeters that could be done, it's coal patching,
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
Oh, and then the other thing too was for me, actually, last weekend I was out riding around for, just checking roads and see how things were coming, and grading was holding with that calcium on it. But I noticed that Knowlton Mills, West Road, and McNaughton Hill didn't get roadside mowed as of Sunday.
Really?
Yep.
Knowlton Mills, West, and
McNaughton Hill.
McNaughton Hill.
And then I was curious, and it's like, so I went down my road when I was on Silver's Mills, and all of the roads looked really good. The only road off Silver's Mills one side of me says, I don't know if they did it or not, but I couldn't tell because there's so many landowners that do so much of theirs, but when you first swing onto the Grange Road, it was very clear that nobody mowed that right side to the Grange. And then I think, Wilson Newt does a lot, and then the other landowners up through do so much, I couldn't tell, but once you got by that last house, from there up to the cemetery, it was very clear that nothing got mowed, but I don't know if you, I don't know where we turned that around. So, I don't know,
Okay.
but,
Do they mow all the sides of all the roads?
Not state roads.
No, okay, but for example, because
No, just the maintained, the town maintains, so like Moulton Road,
Okay. But what
the
about
Center
like
Pond
Thomas
Road.
Road?
Yes.
Because that's not been
Thomas
mowed.
Road.
That's
yes,
not
that
been
should have
mowed.
been done,
Yeah, and McFeeters, I mean, there's nothing really to mow, because
No.
they're all the,
landowners.
Right,
kinda do
all
it.
the
So that
land-
may be why yours didn't, because he just might not even,
right,
you know?
right.
So I didn't check. I know I was down on Grant Road because I was looking at the end of the Grant Road and we was down and through there. I know Grant Road was done. Same way I was looking up for a four-wheeler trail out off from Townhouse, that was done. But I didn't look at like the Turner Road or Bean Hill or Jackman Corner or any of that stuff. I didn't
Okay.
check those.
It did seem like what was done well.
Very well.
Did you see the part on the townhouse between 23 and Silver's Mills, how far they whipped back those
Yeah.
alders?
Yeah.
No,
And I
that's a
did
good
get-
machine.
That's
I got
great.
2 calls about how good of a job he did do, and I got no calls about how bad he did. So
That's good, what he's done is
Mhm.
acceptable.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Anything else?
That's my list, sorry.
We got, I think we all had copied on some correspondence from MMA regarding the potential liability of our 2 bridges and our
Yes.
bridge letters that we received. And that seems pretty unambiguous, there is liability there. Significant, perhaps. So with that in mind, I just so happened, as I'm driving into Dexter today, they're putting up brand new guardrail all along Lake Wassaking. And I got a name off the trucks, and I called the guy, and Billy, I said, Billy, told him who I was, I said, could you just give me a ballpark? What's it gonna cost me? I said, I got 2 bridge letters, they need to be addressed, what could we estimate? $30 a foot. He said, you'll be safe there. And I said, okay, so before we came over, I paced off the 2 bridges, I did it by the yard, $90 a yard. You wanna assume we got a $24,000 project,
Okay.
okay? I think that's a pretty good number based on what Billy told me. And I've
That's for the
got,
legitimate, like the metal.
just what
Okay.
when you see what they did on 23, it's all
Okay.
just what was there, but now all updated and new with
Okay.
the proper cables and the reflectors and all that. He had a huge crew. And we obviously at 24,000, we would probably want to seek other bidders, but that's a great place to start.
Well, at least we have an idea of.
Yep. And so, I think based on what we now understand about the potential liability, that project should go right to the top of the list.
What is that?
Can I just, they might not remove the guardrail that's in at the lower portion.
They may not, and I told him that, but based on what they were doing today, I'll bet they take it all out.
You mean the one that's up past you guys? So it'd be the one on the right? Is that the one you're thinking?
Down
On
on
the-
the hill towards Silver's Mills, there's one down by Peter's Jardins, both sides.
It's got a gap in the
There's
middle,
a big
Yeah.
guardrail.
it comes back up again.
Yeah.
And they flagged that gap, and then it's got, more cable after
Yeah.
that. The one that no one notices is a lot more bridge than people realize,
It's-
and the hole's a lot deeper.
That's
than
the one
people-
that's only on one side of the road.
No, it's on both sides of the road.
Oh.
That was roughly 80 yards in total. But that's a deep hole.
Down past the Eastlers.
Yeah, just on my side of the Eastlers.
Okay, so the total foot,
Total yardage,
yardage is 80?
266
Oh,
Both bridges.
266. 266,
at $90 a yard.
okay.
Was that both sides of the road on both
That's
bridges?
That's
total
the
yard.
one.
That's Michael pacing it off both sides of the road.
Okay.
In total.
So my guess is we'll come in under that, because he
Right.
said that's a safe number. He said that's with your ends and your reflectors and all that, and they might be able to use some pieces.
Right.
But I think if we budget, I bet they can.
I bet the way that, the way that liability sounded to me, the thought of those guys coming in there and I bet they're not gonna wanna use anything because.
It'll probably cost you more to salvage it
Yeah,
than to have them
that's what I'm-
just take it up.
the way that
What
Well,
they did
the
on
latter,
23.
though, one of the bridges is only one side, the other side is intact with the
It's
new.
too short.
It's got
It's
holes in
short.
it and it's
Oh,
short.
it does have.
Yeah.
It's got ramps coming down, creating an opening that shouldn't be there. That's why they flagged it.
Yeah.
So they flagged that side too?
Yep.
Yeah.
They
And
flagged
that's
that
what-
hole
that's been there
specifically.
for so long, I wonder with the liability end of it. Cause I mean, if you hire a contractor to go out and do that and put that to spec.
Right.
He's basically rubber stamping that I'm saying that's,
Well, that was the other thing about Billy. I said, I'm guessing you know exactly what needs to be done to meet
Bring it
the
up to-
requirements of our bridge letter. He said, yep, we do them all the time.
Huh,
I wonder
So,
how many contractors actually do.
I don't know that, but they were working, they had 2 big projects in the state of Maine today that
Wow.
they have big crews, so, and they did all of 23 with just 2 flaggers. They were flying.
well,
wow.
I mean, if you got the right equipment, I bet it's not really,
No, it
Right.
was as big as a paving team.
yeah.
Wow.
So I think I'll give that to you, and I told him you would be hearing from my town manager. So, that's,
No, yeah, I agree as far as putting it at the top of our,
That's, yeah,
top of our.
Yeah.
one way or the other, I think that's,
no,
It has to
because,
be, it has to be done.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the liability is
There.
whatever
Right.
you can imagine.
Yep,
well, and we all know there are people that walk on that road, so, I mean, we're not just talking about cars.
Well, that road is,
ATVs.
ATVs really what worry me.
Yeah,
Once
yeah,
we
yeah.
gave them access, I think we're we have to provide them with a safe bridge.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think you are 100% correct.
Right.
I
So-
think any one of those 3 things, if anything happens to anybody, we are liable with that letter. So, I think we really need to get that.
And one thing I would check with MMA is if we can mitigate our liability with some cones and signage until we get it done. I know like with a bad pothole, if you put up the right signage, you can offset some of that liability.
I think that was in my original question to them, but they didn't address that answer.
If a few orange cones
Without
would
the-
help us, we
Yeah,
should get them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Even a sign, dangerous bridge, whatever, and maybe we can.
That's a really good.
What's that?
That's
Good
a really
idea.
good.
Some cones.
Okay, anything else? Tom, we had an open session, but you weren't here at that time. Would you like to speak?
Well, if I could just ask a question, it kind of puzzled me. Item 11A, executive session. I've never seen someone's name listed in reference to an executive session, it's usually just under whatever, a personnel issue, expulsion of a student, any of the 5 or 6 conditions that are there. And here again, don't tell me anything I'm not entitled to know, okay?
No, the process,
What, under what statute, I think this is classified as a personnel issue?
Yeah.
correct.
Is he considered personnel of the town?
Town officers are.
Any
Treated.
committee member or appointed official, elected official, contractor, employee, anybody that is representing the
Appointed or
town.
elected. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. McNaughton will probably, more than likely not be here. He's not in a good ambulatory state, as I talked to him today.
Yeah,
So,
I talked to him.
you know, if you were expecting him, I'm just letting you know, pretty good chance he won't show up, which could be to your benefit. I don't know. Sorry, Irvin. No, that's about it. The
Okay.
only other quick real thing is Public Works. How are we sitting? I mean, I sit here, I listen about putting up cones and this and that and whatnot. You have someone, or you're going to have someone. I'm not volunteering, so I'm not trying to say anything along those regards. But, you know, I mean, some people have mentioned to me, you know, they kind of wonder about getting things done. And, you know, as long as you've got some stuff under control and,
No, I think, you know, the implementation of the road budget is pretty much on schedule. We're behind on the Gray Road where we'd like to be, but the trees are finally coming down there. This, as you heard, this bridge issue is probably gonna take some money from what we were gonna do originally at McFeeters. But I think we will successfully implement the entire road budget for this year. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. And in fact, we may end up, we haven't talked about it yet, but we may end up going back to the town for some more money if we can get our ducks in a row and maybe do some more fall paving. So I would say we're doing pretty well as far as that goes. And when we have a need, like putting out a cone or geotree, Lois has been working with locals, contractors and such, and things have been getting done pretty well.
Well, and actually, we've stepped up and done
Yeah,
a few
Dale and I
things,
have
so,
dragged some brush,
I mean,
so.
we're all helping to make it work.
okay, Dale told me on the way in that the meeting or the public hearing was canceled. Is that tentatively going to be rescheduled?
I hope so.
Yeah.
But we don't, right now, we don't.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So we are on to committee reports. Road Commissioner.
It's not on your list, but I just wanted to say a thank you to Marty Taylor for doing the sign down there at the rec field. I did post it on Facebook yesterday, and I've got some comments on it that, you know, everybody's appreciative of what they did. I also posted their concert series on the Facebook page, and within an hour of me posting that, the Chamber of Commerce, who we pay to, had shared it as well. So hopefully they get a good turnout for tonight.
Neat.
One thing, because you just reminded me, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but Rhonda asked me after the meeting or before the meeting the other day about who's mowing up by the town sign on 23, if we knew. Because,
PJs.
That's what I
okay,
thought.
because she said that, I guess you used to do that, Tom, son?
Yeah,
But she didn't know
Rhonda
it.
asked me, so I went ahead
Yeah.
and did it, and this year, every time I went by, it was mowed, so I wasn't crying over the fact that I couldn't push the mower for a couple hours.
If I'd have known you wanted to, I'd have let you.
She asked me last year, I mean, over the winter, and I said, yeah, I'm willing to do it again, and I went by, and it's all cut and everything, so.
Who asked? Who asked you?
Rhonda.
Oh.
Rhonda takes care of those flowers.
Oh.
So that's why she was curious, because she's noticed somebody's doing a very good job of keeping that mowed. And she knew it wasn't Tom doing it, so she didn't realize that you had a contractor doing it.
Yeah.
So she knows where I live there. If I notice driving by who's mowing that, so She could send him a thank you card. was
It's
the-
PJ's.
Okay.
I have PJ's doing that section, this little piece down here by the bridge, by Dowdy Hill. He does the little circle there at the town garage.
Yep, if you talk to Ron, if you think of it, you may wanna just, cause I know they do volunteer to do the flowers.
Tom, you might know the answer to this. The Hiram Maxim Monument over on Brockway, is that a town monument or is it a private thing or?
I don't know for sure. The people to ask would be Jeff and Kathy Wiley there to, ask them, because they're the ones that keep it all cut and put
Because
flowers
it's
there.
been kind of ignored and to me, it's kind of an interesting historical site. If it were our jurisdiction, I'd like to spruce it up a little bit.
Okay, well, maybe Kathy and Jeff aren't, I know they've done it in the
No,
past.
they keep it raked up and they keep the sticks out of there and, I
Right.
mean, they make it so you can at least get to it and things like
Yeah.
that, but I think.
I
you're
think there's some
thinking
brush
about
to be cut and,
Yeah.
it could really, it's, like I said, it's kind of an interesting historical
Oh, yeah.
spot
If you
and,
don't know what's there, you gotta drive by.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know until somebody told me about it back in bicentennial
Sure.
year. And I went out and looked at it and said, hey, that's really nice.
Yeah, it is, it's really cool. So anyway, that'd be worth looking into if we could, because if we could get it to a certain level, PJ could keep that cleaned up too,
Yeah.
so. But we'd wanna make sure it's ours.
Right.
But it would be nice too, if people know it's there, I bet 90% of the town don't even know that's there.
I was thinking, that if we could get it kinda spruced up, put it on the page.
Oh, yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Because it's something that people from away would stop and look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Coincidentally, I went to a dinner Monday night, and the fellow sitting across from me, he was asking me about Hiram Maxim in regards to the connection with the town. And I told him, the Historical Society has some information about that, some items were donated. There's a lot of history that goes on the town-wise with Hiram Maxim. And I said, there's a monument, set up for him, just a stone with, I think it's a plaque on there. But he sounded pretty interested, and then I told him that the Historical Society was open from 1 to 3 on Tuesdays. And son of a gun, he did show up down there and look through some of the, so people do have the interest in it. And I'm pretty sure they gave him directions to get down and take a look at the monument. And it'd be nice to have it so it's visible or some kind of recognition.
People Google it, it would come up
Yeah.
as,
Sangerville,
he only
that's
has
right.
one homestead.
That's
and It's right over there on Brockway Mills, so. I know at the Dexter Historical, they had some really interesting pictures of where he demonstrated the machine gun at the lake, and he cut birch trees down with it.
Whoa.
It's kinda neat.
Whoa.
So anyway, that's just our little claim to
Who owns
fame.
that
I know.
property? If that's actually, I'm not sure.
I think somebody owns it.
I'm not sure where the
I don't know the
The Pond
property lines.
Association owns a lot of property up through there, I don't know if they own down that far. I'll have to play with Matt and see.
Okay. Anything else from the road commissioner?
From the road commissioner, yes. So if we're gonna talk about, possibly finishing paving the Silvers Mills Road, the one thing that we need to really discuss is that culvert there by Jerry Kazmazak that's on the hill. How do we wanna deal with it? We never really kind of said how we're gonna do it, because there are 3 or 4 different ways that you can do it. You can simply remove it. It does flow water in the spring. When I looked at it, it did have a good flow. Well, visibly you could tell that it had flow. You can take it down to the top of the culvert, but you're gonna have to V it, so you compact it so that that's more of a shallow or gradual frost heave in the spring. So either way you're gonna do it, whether you remove it or leave it, I mean, you could take it out, reset it, and still do the V. You can go down to the top of the culvert and do the V. If you take it out and remove it completely, you're still gonna want a V, because you're gonna want that to be gradual frost heave.
Now, if you remove it, you said there's water that did.
There is water that does flow through there, but it also is downhill, so it's kind of at the top of the hill, so it will flow
Oh.
down the hill as well.
there's probably, what would you say, 20 paces maybe?
There's not much.
Yeah, it was literally 20 paces from the crest of the hill
Yeah.
to where this culvert would pick up that flowage. And then you go another roughly 100 yards and there's
Another
another
culvert.
culvert. So
Yeah.
I think in terms of flowage, I'm not a civil engineer, but I got a feeling that in terms of moving the water, that's not gonna be a problem if we eliminate the culvert.
Right.
But my thought, the problem with the culvert isn't flowage, it's that it moves so much. It's one of the worst ones in terms of the road, and it may not even be the culvert that's moving, it could be the road that's moving,
Yeah.
you know how that
But
works.
the culvert is then causing the.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah, yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, this last year, we ended up more coal batch on, every year it's more coal batch.
And it may, we could remove the culvert and have the exact same problem.
Yeah,
If you just remove it like this, so you
Right, you
really
have to-
need
yeah,
a
V,
wider
yeah.
V to,
My only thought is if you take it out right now, you know in 10 years, you're not gonna reset a culvert. You know in 20 years, you're not, or 15 years, you're
That's
not
right.
gonna replace a culvert.
That's right.
So,
It's done.
whatever
It's a
we
done
do now,
deal.
we're never gonna cut through that length of hot top.
And
Right.
if your contractor looks at that and agrees with our assessment that you probably don't need that for flowage,
I
to
think
eliminate a
that-
culvert just
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
Even if it moves afterwards.
well, and that's, I mean, I've talked to 2 or 3 different people, and they're all of the opinion is either way is an acceptable choice, so it's up to you.
So,
Remove it, take it out,
Yeah, I'd
it's
take
fine, leave it, it'll be fine.
And it might be, there was
So
some
it's-
discussion that they might be able to salvage it, we might be able to use it
Yes.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
So I'd say,
I would say
Pull it
anytime
out.
that any contractor tells us, you can reset it or you can take it out and not put it back, I wouldn't put it back.
I
Yeah.
agree with that.
I mean,
so that's one thing to think about when we consider the cost of the paving, we wanna remove that. If you're gonna make a big enough V, it's gonna be a few more dollars than just because of the gravel that you're gonna have to put in there and compact. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, Butch, earlier this spring was working with me over on East Sangerville Road, that area where we had so much water flow over the road, and there's really no ditch there. And to create a ditch, it really doesn't have anywhere to go unless it goes back into the field, which belongs to a landowner. And it's Leland, I'm not sure which one he is. I've talked with him when his dad was a selectman. He allowed the town to maintain that drainage ditch down across the field. But as far as he knows, and I haven't had time to go back because he didn't know what year that was, those years when he was a selectman, there is no actual easement in the registry of deeds. And so he wants to just kind of say, yeah, go ahead and do that. I'll let you do that. But we really should have an easement of some kind, whether it's written, a deed or an agreement. It should be something in writing, because it's the only place we have water to go if we ditch that area. Is down across that field, and he's willing to do that for us. We just need to do a little bit more research. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the years that he was select person.
Mr. Cronin?
I can't pick up, that was before my time.
Do you remember anything about this said area?
Well, I know there's been a continuing problem over the years because of all the runoff from Cleves Field. And, it just overwhelms whatever drainage you have there. You're talking about where Milton Mills Road comes out on East Sangerville Road near.
No, that's another problem there
No.
too, but we're talking down
Down by Leland's.
by Leland's before that sharp corner.
Oh, that's, no, I don't have any familiarity with that. No.
There's also a culvert that was plugged that we brought, and I did get confirmation from Pete Coughlin at the state MDOT. It is against the law to plug a culvert. So,
I mean, it was deliberately plugged?
it appears it was
Not a beaver.
deliberately. No, it's not a beaver. It's packed in with roadside gravel
What?
in the ditch.
Okay.
Never heard of that.
So the water that starts to flow, I mean, it would have an outlet, partway down the hill, but then from that,
Well, you wouldn't have to be Dick Tracy to figure out that maybe it's the person who's gonna receive the water, right?
Yeah. And that's probably why we have the problem that we have.
and it certainly compounds the problem that we have, because we still don't have ditch down closer to Leland's, but we're also getting all of that extra water from, that should be
Interesting.
But I mean, if
There's
we
always
fix,
more to the story.
if we fix that problem, that fixes a lot of the other problems.
It probably would, but
I gotta
I don't
look
know
at
if we
this now.
can
So is that-
simply dig out that end of the culvert, or if we're gonna have to pull the whole culvert and reset. I mean,
Oh
that's,
my gosh.
I mean, that's something that,
But is that, when you're talking this part of the ditching, is this excavation, is this something that the bulldozer can do? As far as to get that area ditched out, cleaned up and go?
I could get a bulldozer to do that.
mean, we
Butch
have one.
actually, he said, if you have an excavator that knows how to do it, he said he'd do it quicker than he could, so he was okay with,
Well, that's what I was
but he
wondering,
could
yeah.
work on the drainage ditch part of it, where the excavator do the roadside ditching, and he could do the drainage ditch part of it. Something like that, but again, that's probably gonna be some dollars.
That's not big dollars. I mean, excavator for a couple days is gonna make you ditch.
That, right, you're right.
We're not in $24,000 bridge.
No,
No.
no.
That's where I'm,
But we could be, you know, depending on how we get an easement on, from Leland, if, I'll have to, confirm with MMA whether or not it has to be a deed, and then will Leland still give us a
I
deed?
don't know if I would pursue that, but.
A deed, an easement deed, a water easement? Would you just take a written agreement?
He's willing to give that?
Yes.
Oh.
At the end of the day,
I
it's our
believe it is.
job to put the ditch in our right of way. And at the end of the conversation,
Then
if the
we're,
water's on the landowner, isn't that, I mean, there's no different than in my house or anybody else's. We have ditches and water runs across the landowner afterwards.
Right, but we would be paying the private landowner's drainage easement to keep that, you see what I'm saying? It's a private property.
Well, I'm trying, for example, I have a pond at my house. It's fed by the runoff that comes off from Bean Hill and then runs across my property. There's no easement, and there's not much I can do about that. I made a pond, but,
But if we don't clean this easement that's there, we're not gonna get the water to flow
okay,
up,
but,
Then it
down
would
the
just lay on
field.
the landowner's property.
so,
It
oh,
would
I
still
have,
go with-
Possibly.
It would.
yeah, I mean, I have kind of a wetland, and then it comes out of the wetland and feeds the pond. That's what's gonna happen to him unless he, and now if I ditched it, it would look differently. But it
right.
would be up to me to do that. How high are the banks there?
On that, in that area?
Yeah,
The banks as in relevance to the road?
yeah, well, from the
pretty
water
flat.
level to the top of the road. In my example, it's probably 10 or 15 feet down to where the water would be. In this example, is the
Well,
water
if
like
you-
just a
I mean,
few
if you
feet
go
away?
from the road and you go out through, I mean, Leland's is down a little bit, and then that field is more gradual.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I would focus on the ditching and the culvert that's plugged, and get the ditching down through it and get it going across Leland's, like it's always done. I don't think it's gonna be a big flow. If it ends up being a issue afterwards, Leland knows the history, and if we need to do something to make that right, as far as take the bulldozer and scratch it, then I would say we could do that, but I don't think we need a
Not to
deed or
start with
anything
it.
to do that.
Is this plug culvert increasing his volume? Is that what's happened?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you might solve half or more of your problem if you could just keep people from plugging your culverts.
Right, we're gonna steer it to somebody else is what we're gonna do.
We really have a vandalism problem.
Correct, to start with.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Interesting.
And hopefully, I mean, we can just shovel out that, but the problem is when they put in a driveway, and when they put that driveway culvert in, then they blocked that cross culvert. So, depends on how much we move the driveway culvert in reference to that culvert, because they basically, they come together like a Y. And they've plugged the cross culvert so that it's forcing it to go through that driveway culvert.
So if we get in there with do our little ditching with an excavator, if you needed to, we get a fire truck out there and put a 2.5 in there on the other end.
And blow
You
it
could
through.
blow it through. You're not going into the river, so I mean, the fire
Right.
truck could blow that out for us. We've used them to blow out other culverts before. But that might be cheaper than, you know what I mean?
Digging,
If
digging.
you can't get it dug out and you gotta dig it out by,
Right, right.
you throw it, yeah, I would try that. Do what we can do with that, and same time, we could get a fire truck, they can clean that culvert out.
We also had a few more beaver taken care of, so.
I don't know.
Okay. Anything else? On to new business. Supplemental tax, 1, 2, and abatements.
Yeah. So the first one, we had a mobile home that was placed last fall that didn't get assessed. So I used my manual, did an assessment and did that. So on assessment 1, the supplemental assessment 1, there's that mobile home, and then I did Lucas Schneider for a $50 code enforcement fine, and then I did Hughes Network, which was a personal property. After I did this one, which is in the abatements, when I printed the bills, it gave him the 2% discount and this and I thought, no, I can't do that because it's a code enforcement fine, so I don't want it to have the abatement. So one of the abatements is that $50, and then the second supplement is specifically code enforcement fine, because we're allowed to put that on property tax. So that's the second one. And then for Hughes Network, I used the total value instead of attaching the mill rate to it, so we have to abate the difference between that. And then Lisa Cody purchased a property down on Silver's Mills, 35 Silver's Mills, and she had asked Hamlin's to reassess that way back in April, and I called them, and he had actually done that reassessment, but it was not updated in our files, so I updated it in our files and gave her that abatement. And she's redoing the property, so we want to go back and reassess before
house on the
April
right?
1st. Pardon?
The one on the right?
It's 35.
Yeah, I think it is.
It was USDA.
Yep.
So that's what those
Yeah.
3 are.
It's good to see somebody in there. That house has been vacant for...
Is that the one that's with the metal roofing?
Yeah, they just put all that metal roofing on, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that when they bought it, but they've been doing, appears to be doing a lot of work. They've done a lot of cleaning up around there. It looks really nice. There hasn't been anybody who's been in that house for probably 9 years.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah.
So we should probably have motions on those, just because you are the board. Because it's like a tax commitment for the supplement.
So to approve them or
Yeah.
to approve
To
them?
approve them.
So I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental tax number 1, number 2, and abatements. Make a motion.
Sorry.
Any further discussion? None? We vote? All 3 in favor?
Yeah, and I noticed that as well, is when you're on the avenue, before, I can't remember the name of the road, but the side road up to where the hospital's offices are, there's a house right there on that, that's been vacant for a few years, and somebody's just bought that one.
The little brown one that,
Yeah.
that's such a cute little
It
house.
is.
But that's been vacant, somebody's living in there now.
Yeah.
Or I
Wow.
assume, I haven't seen a car there in a new mailbox, so.
We did have a lady come in earlier this spring and ask about it. I don't know if it was her that purchased it, but
Oh.
she was interested in it. There was a lady, so.
So there's seem to be a little more activity around
That's
there.
good.
On to B, Burgess easement.
This is, I've passed it along to Lance, because Lance is the one that actually has to sign this. This is for the turnaround that he's allowing on our property. He gave it to his attorney to have it reviewed, to make sure everything's good.
Turn around and he's allowing
On his property.
Is that,
You said our property.
The other way.
it's the other way
He
around?
would take exception to that.
He would. So yes, it's his property, but he wanted to make sure that there was wording in there that he has the right to, and I think I forwarded it to you, kick people off out of the easement, that if they're down there partying, that he doesn't want them there, and so he maintains the right to protect his land. He's just giving the town them. So he has it, it's off to his attorney, and as soon as, I'm assuming when his attorney says, yeah, it's good, he'll
The
sign
only
it.
question that I had for that was there was a term in there as well about, it goes back to him after 5 years of maintenance, or lack of maintenance, but as far as winter maintenance, winter plowing, because we know we're gonna plow that.
Right.
Does that classify us as not part of that clause?
5 years.
Yeah, it said if say like for whatever reason, we didn't do anything up there for 5 years, it says it could go back to the landowner. when I read that, I consider plowing as part of your winter maintenance.
Yes.
So, as long as that is the intent, then that was my question.
I would assume that is actually what it means.
Okay, C, municipal quitclaim deed.
This is the parcel that we did the tax acquired sale on. You have to sign that so that I can get it recorded at the registry of deeds. She came in and paid for it, so it is paid in full. I told her you would be signing the deed tonight. I'll record it tomorrow. She wants to start cutting trees
Good for her.
Friday.
Good.
She's like, I can't wait to bring up the camper and my
I
four-wheeler.
know they want a four-wheel,
They're
I
so
think it's,
excited.
That's great.
you know, that's, we'll finish this, but on a selectman's concern, I was thinking about promoting, you know, I know there's a lot of division on the whole ATV thing, but this is like the third or fourth case where someone's literally bought property here because of ATV access.
Yeah.
Might not be a bad thing to put that on the website, you know, what we have for
Yeah.
maps, where you can get to. I haven't heard of anybody who sold their house because of ATV access, but it may happen.
We had threats, though.
Yeah.
D, cemetery deed, village cemetery part 3, plot 8S1, Cindy Puglier.
And I would just need a motion for that.
Make a motion to accept
Yep.
cemetery deed and village lot part 3, plot 8S1.
Or approve, yeah.
Or-
Approve the sale.
Okay, approve the sale.
Those in favor? Unanimous?
Could I just ask a question about the village cemetery real quick? A couple of years back, we had a severe erosion problem on the river side of the cemetery.
We still do.
Still do.
As, you know, at that time, I put up some grade stakes and some tape. I haven't been out there to look at it.
The grade stakes are still there. The tape is flapping from the stakes.
Okay, all right, well, no, it's just that it could be a real hazard. At times, you know, after being the sexton for a couple of years, 3 years, and then seeing, you get some older people that aren't really good navigating with their cars, and boy, somebody gets close to that, and it's all the way down to the river.
Have you been over lately to see it?
No, I haven't, I knew it was.
It's getting worse.
Is it, well, yeah, I knew it was probably gonna get worse, cause it's all sandy based stuff that's there, and it's just.
And those big oak trees are levering and
Yeah.
just tearing it out.
Yeah, I don't know of any kind of easy fix to, other than to keep it, you know, the boundaries set so that people will definitely stay away from it. 'Cause-
Well, we've talked about putting the concrete barricades just around that one section, but we've also got permission from DEP and the code enforcement that we can select cut
Yeah.
trees that are the tall ones that might pull the top of the bank down.
Try to slow it.
Try to slow it down. I don't know if I forwarded you any of the information. I actually did finally get a hold of the Army Corps of Engineers, and they have a program. I've got to follow up with my email that I sent them, that we may be able to get some assistance or some kind from the Army
That'd be
Corps of Engineer.
fantastic.
We may have to put some money into a plan, but we may be able to get some assistance from them.
That would be awesome.
So that was in Massachusetts. I kept following the trail and called this person. So,
Okay, you want to discuss, schedule for August?
I believe August 1st, not all of the board members are available August 1st.
I am,
Oh, you are?
yep.
Whoops.
No? Oh, that's right.
Oh.
I see, I thought it was you.
My B.
You're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 35 years old. Well, it's not that funny. Okay, I mean, the second?
So the second, I've actually posted it on the website for the second. That is the first
I wanna come to the
week, which is actually just next week. And then, so the 1st and 3rd, then the 15th is actually the second concert down there. So do you want to go August 2nd and the 15th, or do you want to switch and
I'm
go?
not stuck on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
So you tell me what you want so I can get it posted on the website.
Well, the second is literally next week, so is there enough in play here to have another meeting next week. I don't know that, answer to that, but, and the following week, I'm not available,
You're away,
I'm away.
Right,
So that gets us out to
the
the
15th.
15th.
which gets us 3 weeks from now, right?
Yep. Well, yeah.
But we could do the 14th or the 16th if we want to see the concert. I mean, that's up to you, or if you don't care.
I'm sure by the 15th, we're gonna have
Yeah,
plenty to do.
Yeah.
Don't disagree.
We all said we don't mind the day, so you wanna do it the day before?
Sure.
That gives us a little cushion to move it if we have to.
Right, that's good.
So you want to go the 14th?
Yep.
Tuesday.
And you know what else? If it turns out that we're able to do the public hearing that we didn't do today,
Oh,
we
yeah.
won't be in
Yeah.
conflict with the concert.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can get to that.
Yep.
You're such a positive thing.
And so
I
is
try to
that,
be.
is that the only one we want to hold for August? If we need a special,
Let's do that. I don't really know, I mean,
I do have a price from Pike
I
for
was
the
say,
other
well, how
mile.
much notice do we need for a special town meeting?
7 days. Technically 7 days. You have to have it posted for 7 days.
when are you gonna get a bill from Pike for where we're at?
It's in one of those.
Yeah, I say we
It's
just
full?
paid it.
How did I miss that?
It's
Same,
106,000.
it was a big,
It was just 100,000, you thought I'd noticed that.
106, just under 107,000.
But I
And
mean,
that's
as far
said and
as,
done.
with
That's said
that
and
coming
done.
out, when are we gonna know what's exactly left in Public Works? Do we know, I mean, so we know where we're at, what you got left to spend, we now know you got a 24, go with a 24 for that. You gotta have an idea of where you're gonna be on Gray Road.
Right.
If you, maybe you could get some better, maybe you might call in next week, actually, if we get some of these.
if you've got
I want to
numbers,
just talk about,
because,
Just talk about roads, I mean.
well, I did talk, I sent an email to the same other paving companies that had sent for the whole part of Silver's Mills. I haven't gotten a response from any of those yet. But Pike's the only one that's provided.
Now, you kind of suggested there may be a better price later in the year, is that?
He did suggest if you wait until later in September, early part of October, you may get a better price. I don't know if his estimate will reflect that, or if he's just, based on today's price. Because they slow down,
Right,
so,
he's gonna be like itching for work.
right.
well, as far as the meeting goes, if you've got enough information for us to actually consider something, I would meet next week.
Sure.
Even if that was the only thing on the agenda. Because if we're gonna schedule a town meeting, we need to get our ducks in a row.
All right, so we want just information on the roads budget then, where are we?
Where we
Where we're
stand.
at, where you think, where else are we gonna spend, and
Yep.
so we know kinda, this is where your budget is to get us to zero, where we think we need to go to finish up. Cause one way or another, we really need to do, those bridges gotta be done, that's,
Yeah, if we have to ask for money to complete those bridges, we gotta ask for money to complete the bridges. We don't have a
The
choice.
Cas culvert,
but I mean,
paving.
McFeeters really need something up there with some coal patch, it's pretty bad. So,
Yeah, and I think, didn't Warren say something about,
Warren mentioned it.
and those guys know the road probably better than anybody.
Well, and I've asked,
somebody give me a price on the wheel load coal patch, and wheel a price to buy for the coal patch and dispersing it. Don't get an hour price, you know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, how much for a truckload dispensed? I mean, they would know exactly where to put it.
Yes. I did ask Chris about, because I know that the Gray Road, we're doing the trees there, because we're gonna have the stumps removed. And so I asked Chris, Chummy's also given me a price for use of his excavator for that, by the hour, and the truck to do the gravel. They're pretty comparative, I mean, within $5 of each other, $5 or $10 of each other, both him and Chris. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
But you got a fairly difference in equipment though, right?
Between the two pieces of equipment, I'm not sure what size of excavators don't.
It's done,
It
it's done in
matters.
They
time,
register with Dale.
but it's
It
done,
matters.
so like if, seriously, if you've got a 15-ton excavator, or you got a 20-ton, that 20-ton is gonna do, that tonnage is lifting capacity, digging capacity.
Yeah,
reach.
those are old trees, right?
Makes
So
it
they're gonna
faster,
have some
yeah,
more
big
efficient.
Sure,
roots.
yeah. So you've got excavators that are this big and you've got excavators as big as the house.
Well, I thought they were both pretty big. I think that's what, I think Jimmy said, yeah, it's a good one. So, but I know dump truck size bodies are different. I mean,
Same-
I do
same-
know that you can
same
have a
philosophy.
12 dump or a 15 or a
Same
17
philosophy.
yard
So just
cubic
tell me the
yard.
larger excavator, I just wanted, oh, okay.
Actually, it's right there. But I believe Chumby's is newer, so it may be a little quicker hydraulics and stuff.
Yeah.
So that, you know, but I think both of them would be pretty honest with you too. They'd tell you what they are. So,
Or we can ask
The good
them how
news
big
is
it
the stump pump is close. We'll have to haul it very far.
Hi,
don't worry about
Hey,
that.
Johnny.
That'll be-
Gene.
I can do that.
Okay.
All right. So I'll tentatively, I'll let you know if I get some numbers worked out.
So we're on to old business.
Yes.
Abby followed Brian Howard proposal. Based on what we know today, I would say we table this agreement. Need a motion to table?
No, it doesn't hurt.
Make motion table. Andy Fowler, Brian Howard proposal.
Second?
Those in favor? Unanimous? Trash update.
So I've been working with George. He's done a lot of legwork, going to the houses that we had outlined before. We've sent letters. He's done follow-up. We do have this particular one, like I said, on the supplemental tax over on Anderson Road. We sent certified letters. We're on the third round. It's a brother and sister. The brother isn't answering, responding. It doesn't look like there's anything being cleaned. The sister we're trying to find her because we have no forwarding address. So we're trying to find her. I did what I could to find her, sent her a letter yesterday. But we did a $50 fine. I've given you a copy of the letter that was sent. Basically, he's fining him $50 a day, as long as that's... I have not put that supplemental in because when you read our ordinance, I think it said the board and or the code enforcement officer has the ability to waive some of those fees, and there should be a 30-day time period in there. So I did apply the first $50 fine, but I don't even, and I sent the bill. So he knows he's got that first fine, but I don't think he's read the letter because the first letter just came back. The second letter I sent certified, but I also sent regular mail. George had stopped one day when there were vehicles there, nobody came to the door. So they're avoiding him. So we're going to try and find the sister, whatever we can do. If we can't, we may have to have something served either via constable or sheriff because it's a mess. I mean, if you see the pictures, you'd say, yeah, that's pretty bad. So we are working on it as far as trying to get some of these places cleaned up. That's my update.
C, fire department conversation.
I talked with Tom just this afternoon, and he did not throw me out any numbers. I had mentioned that you had talked to him as I was doing my June 20th minutes. It's like, so I referred back to that day, and he said that you had told him sharpen his pencil, and he would like to have you as a board meet with their board, their chief, and he and I make it a group meeting, and let's just talk it through and see what we can arrive, if we can arrive at an agreement, where to go from here.
When I did talk to Tom, was actually, to me, is more important than how sharp his pencil is I really, when I talked with him, he needed to come up with this plan of how this would all work, so that we was all confident that you would have, I mean, we have a problem now, and his plan would fix our problem. If that doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter what it all, you know, that's the point of doing this, is we're not getting enough turnout, or we can't field our trucks, and so that was, you know, the number one focus, and so I'm kinda hoping, I would like to have him present us something before that, but,
No, he just wants to meet.
okay.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that would be structured, is maybe just a workshop?
I would structure it as a workshop, and if they wanna do it over there, we just post it here that you are over there. I mean, you just change the location. You know, make it in bold, big, bold.
I'd
Yeah.
say.
So-
I'm saying
ASAP.
our board, his board, and the two chiefs, and
Yep.
And our managers, town managers.
Yep.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Do you have any particular dates that you would rather have it, can't have it? I mean, I know you're gone the week.
I think as soon as we can, so the latter part of August, and
whatever works. for you.
anytime. You know, during the days, I'll make it happen personally. I'm sure their select board is like ours, they probably work during the day.
Okay.
That's a good first step. Item 9, correspondence, Department of Alcohol, Beverages, and Lottery Operations.
So I got this nice little letter from the Department of Alcoholic Beverages that states the town does not have a vote, a local option vote for hard liquor on premise on Sundays, malt beer on premise on Sundays, wine on premise on Sundays, malt beer off premise on Sundays, and wine off premise on Sundays. So this is all, so what it means by off premise is like A. Robinson, you go to A. Robinson on a Sunday and you buy a 6-pack of beer and you leave, that's off premise. We don't have an approved vote for purchasing on Sundays anywhere.
kidding.
No kidding. Yes. So,
How did they just stumble onto this?
well, when I called the lady, she was pretty frazzled. This came in on my desk Friday. I waited till Monday morning to call her. I mean, it literally like 9 o'clock, and she's like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, "You don't have any idea how much." I mean, she was frazzled at 9 o'clock.
Is this a yearly thing you're supposed to do?
No,
We've
Is this
just
something
never,
that's never been done?
it's just never. She is now going through every town and figuring out. She's got files for every town, and you have a 1985 vote, you have a 1994 vote, you have a 2014 vote, but nowhere in those votes was this approved or not approved.
See, and I
So
would
can we
just.
blame Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. You're here, I'm gonna take advantage of it.
I would have assumed that you needed a vote to restrict the sale. It's the other way around.
oh,
So it's a one-time deal?
No,
Oh.
she said sometimes vote every year, and sometimes it's approved, and sometimes it's not approved.
what? And then they have to change their business model with regard to.
So when is the last time we did vote?
Well, we voted in 2014, but it was only for on-premise for Stutzman's. So,
Because probably nobody knew you had to vote for off-premise.
So, and A.E. Robinson is the only off-premise,
country time.
which is
That's controlled the
up
state.
there.
They've got a state license. They've got a right to.
But the
have to do
town,
it.
no, the town has the right to restrict, because what the town votes, then it gets sent to the state, and the state has to
That's why
adhere
Corinth is dry.
to the
Yeah.
town
That makes
vote.
the town dry. It don't change when they can sell it. If you vote, you vote not to have it in your town, period.
What they're saying to us is
No.
it's incremental. You could have beer, but forbid hard liquor.
Yeah,
Right.
And you're
Or
only
wine.
talking about
Or
Sunday.
wine, yeah, you can pick and choose.
and it's only a Sunday thing.
Right.
So Sundays
Yeah,
is
you
never,
can-
Sunday sales have never been approved in the town. It doesn't matter if it's been approved at the state level, it has to be approved at the town level as well.
What about
Oh.
all the other days of the week? Have they been approved?
Those have been approved in 1985,
And we didn't ever have to
Well,
reapprove them?
this is another item for
because they
our
were
special.
never asked again.
So.
Well, no, because this one would have to be, we would want to run it in like November, because it actually has to be written ballot.
Oh.
So it would have, we could run it with the
But can these
election.
guys still function?
Well,
That would be an important thing to know.
she didn't say that they couldn't. She said, I'm sure they're still selling it. And I didn't say yes or no. So she didn't seem to be uptight by it, that they may be selling on Sundays. She just said, we want to have the vote that says they can do that. So I said, okay,
So she may be satisfied that it's on the warrant.
yeah.
Is this a state official or just a resident?
No,
State
no.
officials
level.
from the Department of Alcoholic Beverages.
And
Oh.
tobacco.
I guess
lottery.
they ain't been doing their job, have they?
They don't,
No, and that's what
that
she-
doesn't help you though.
Boys, oh boy.
That's what
Isn't that
she,
crazy?
She said
We've
she
been
was-
meaning to get to you for the last 4 decades.
That's kind of what I
Well,
was concerned about though, is if,
I mean,
with this letter, to find out
you
next
can
week if Robinson
understand
can't sell.
Schools are after.
No, they know that we're not the only town and that it was just, this was
Okay.
just landed on her desk and she's just trying to get,
She just got to the S's.
she's
Yes,
just,
right.
As long as it's you that has to go up and tell somebody that we cannot do this anymore until the vote, but not us.
Well, if that happened, I think we probably would have to entertain
A special.
some sort of
Oh,
a,
yeah.
but if she'll take the fact that it's gonna be on our next warrant, then that
Right,
should
if
be
that
fine.
sort of buys
well,
us
I
the
said to
time.
her, we could go do it by the November election and she said that,
Yep, correct, yeah.
okay.
You never know what's coming in the
I
mail.
know, I know. Is that funny? Oh, my goodness.
Okay, request for additional agenda items.
Tell me, you came in,
Well, I'm just here for the, road commissioner report.
oh,
I
that's all?
thought Seth was gonna be here.
Oh, that's right, he was
He's
supposed to be here at
any minute.
6, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he will. Yeah,
Did you talk to him?
no, but
I texted him yesterday afternoon and told him 6, and he said, okay.
I have one other thing, only because I neglected to, and just coming down Pleasant Avenue, easterly, so coming down this way, when you look south, there's a huge willow tree there, and I mean, you have to look, and I mean, I go back, you know, 10
Do you want
times a
Jeremy
day.
Schobel's number?
Whose?
State road.
State Road,
Oh, they have to do it? Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Okay, never mind.
I
I'll bring my
I
lockers
mean, I
next
think
time.
we
Can we
could.
call down?
I can call him. It's on
No,
Pleasant
it's-
Ave.
No, it's on 23. It's on 23.
Two by Joe White's house.
Yep. And it's just this huge willow that hangs
Yeah,
down, and
it
you
does.
just can't. I mean,
Terry and I were cutting one up on the French's Mills Road that draped into the road. Over
really?
there on a Sunday with my pole saw. She
Yeah.
was dragging
good
brush.
Samaritan.
That sounded like a romantic date.
It was.
Yeah.
I can show you some more.
Bill to follow.
All right.
Yeah, show me.
I've got one question, is Lois knows my son called her about the ATVs flying by his house in the middle of the night and stuff. Ain't they supposed to stop at a certain time at night?
We had this, I only know this because we had
Is
this
there a
question.
limit?
The speed limit is the road's limit.
Whatever the speed.
If the
on
road is
is.
45, that's their limit too. If it's 25, that's their limit as well. So, and unmarked roads, I believe, for the most part, are 45.
Right.
So that would be their limit. There's no state statute that requires them to stop at dusk or dawn. Some communities have tried to implement it. And I guess if you had your own police force, you probably could enforce it. But there was a lot of misunderstanding on the law. We were told at one point, at sunset, you can't drive. That is not true. Which is kind of, because some of these don't have much for lighting. And some have too much for lighting, but it's,
Well, it wouldn't be a problem if he went by at a decent rate of speed, but when you go by 60 miles an hour in the middle of the night when you get your window open, and
yeah.
I guess I'll tell him he'll have to handle it himself.
Yeah.
It's one of those, my road, actually, if the cars are worse, I've got a couple of cars, and I should get plates, they're going through there at 70.
Oh, I have a two on the W.
The road's too good now.
Oh, that's the problem.
I had too many nice diesel trucks on straight pipes.
Oh.
That black way worse.
I have argon windows that blocks out all sound.
They didn't make them in 1850. when they built them.
We put them in there, it's a 1904 building.
It's gonna get worse, they're making, Bombardier's making a side-by that'll do about 90 miles an hour.
Oh,
Oh, they already got it, Chummy. I got one goes by my house all the time.
You already got it, they got them out?
that's frightening.
Yeah.
That's
That
really
is.
frightening.
This side-by-side industry, it's
That's
incredible.
frightening.
Yeah,
We were in Lewiston at the Central Maine Motorsports. They're a big Honda dealer. Harley Davidson's right next to them, huge store. the place was filled with people. They weren't looking at motorcycles, they weren't looking at 4x4, they were looking at side-by-sides. The Harley Davidson lot was empty. There had to be 100 people there.
Really?
Just, and it was all side-by-sides.
25,000 plus.
And yeah, and kids,
Oh, that's for small.
Is that how much
ones,
it
yeah.
costs?
Well, that's for,
and they're financing them like cars.
Cabs.
You know,
Just
20
ridiculous.
grand, and they're financing
I
for
had
5
a shop
years.
at my house in a black one, all full cab, and it's hot out, and the doors, the windows are all closed.
And then AC.
How can you even handle riding in this? It's so hot. Oh, I got my AC on. Yeah.
No, it's big business.
He doesn't have
Did
to
you
put
notice,
plates on it?
the place in,
ATV?
Newport?
Yeah.
He's building another building.
Oh.
It's all side by side.
Right, yeah, I see that.
Wow, that's amazing. And they can't drive them on, I mean, they can only drive where an ATV can drive, correct? I mean, they can't
Or
go
if
down.
you have a road that has access.
A lot of them are coming out now that you can't register them as a slow moving vehicle. The problem isn't the registration, the problem is the insurance. It's hard to get some of them to cover.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, mine came through, I've got high, low beam, I've got blinkers, four ways, brake lights. It's got windshield wiper, I mean,
So you can drive it on the road
it
as a,
doesn't have DOT tires.
oh. So if it has DOT tires,
That's the only thing that's left.
The legislature has been kind of staying out of this thing, and I think eventually you're gonna see something for structure.
yeah.
But right now, it's pretty much the Wild West.
What I don't understand though is,
Amazing.
all of these towns that are, I mean, because the volume of towns that are opening the roads is getting more and more and more. And the one restriction that always goes to legislature is everybody's pushing to get them to be insured. But that always seems to fail at that level. But I think I forwarded it to you that what the amendment they're trying to do, they want to take and create a altered ATV registration. And by doing that, you would pay excise tax, you would be required to be insured, and it would mandate that you have high and low beams, and you would have turn signals, and you would have DOT tires. You'd basically make it a street legal ATV. But in order to do that, that would allow you access on all non-state roads. But they keep failing, that keeps failing.
and you have to have a driver's license.
Well, that's a very interesting conversation, because I've had 3 people tell me they've been stopped by a warden and said they had to have a license. And then I particularly had 3 separate conversations with wardens, and we've both gone go-arounds with him citing a law, and I citing where it's not what he's reading it. And at the end of the
So-
conversation, I never found out if you have to have a license. They
Must
still
have.
say they do, but that's not what the article says, so.
And you have to be, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
16? 16? Or 18? 16?
and up, I think, because under that you have to, you're not allowed to cross over it, so you're not allowed.
Oh, right. God, it's like experimental aircraft. You used to not have pilot's license.
I do have an additional agenda item. It is just skipped my mind, and it is around assessing.
Oh,
I know you said at a previous meeting, you had a conversation with Hamlin,
Yeah,
and he was willing to, he really wanted us back.
yeah.
We had toyed with a lot of different, we toyed with upgrading Trio, bringing it in-house, and that, it's been cumbersome. And my thought is, and that's why my thought is, maybe we consider giving it back to Hamlin, look at it again next year. If there's a way to do a better job, maybe, and save some money, maybe we look at that again. But I think we're getting a little along in the year, and he's expressed an interest of kind of tapping. One of the things we found was there were pieces of property that it looked like maybe they hadn't been assessed as often as they should have been.
right.
So we, the 3 of us kind of agreed that we were gonna kind of police our own areas and help him with catching up on those.
Just bring-
And he seemed receptive to that.
Yeah, actually, that's what I told him. I said, I don't want to point a finger at you, so I can point the finger right back at us. And, you know, I definitely felt there was issues on both sides that we both need to make better to make you better, or to make the assessing better. And he agreed with that. He was willing to come in and talk with us. He was willing to, you know, reduce his price a little bit. So I think myself, what I would like to do is if we could go to that theory or bring Hamlin back in and us work with him and you work with him, and then that would maybe over the next year give you a better idea of how that's all working and what it would take to bring that in-house.
Well, I talked with, I don't remember which town, it was an assessor, specifically about using the main assessment manual, which is what Hamlin's uses. That's what he's told me he's using. And so the question then became in my mind, well, and when I had to do this supplemental tax for that mobile home, it's like, well, that's easy enough to use that manual. Why can't anybody use that manual and do it? And so that was my question that I had put out there. And she said, if you've been using the main assessor's manual, you should continue to use that manual until you do a reval. And when you get ready to do a reval, then change your process. But that's, I mean, anybody can use it because it's like, literally it's charts. It's, 100 by
Right,
square
right.
feet, and you
Yeah,
It's a-
yeah,
it's a
it's-
book.
it's-
Then that is
exactly, it is
close.
that easy,
Yeah,
and you add for this and you deduct for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a class next week that I'm going to. It is based on using the main assessor's manual. So the problem with the main assessor's manual at this point is it's a 2012 version. But if that's what you're using, consider to use it, continue to use it. So that would save you the upgrades to the Trio. And just this week, it helps when you have, as tax collector, it's my job to do the research to make sure that mortgage holders are being properly notified when tax liens and stuff go on. So I did my job. I went to the registry and I did, found this mortgage holder. And so I sent the mortgage holder the copy of the tax lien certificate like I was supposed to. And so she come in and she's like, well, what's this property on? She says, I don't hold any mortgage. And I went and printed off the 22-page document that said you do hold the mortgage on all of these properties. And she's like, oh. But on this one particular one, so technically I should have sent her for all of them, and I ended up ultimately giving her copies of all the properties that fell under that name. But when I called an abutting landowner, because the specific certificate that I had was only buildings, it wasn't land associated with it, and so I called him and I said, do your buildings, do you own the land and everything? And he's like, yes. Well, the buildings were being assessed to somebody else, but it's his land and his buildings. So it's good to have, a second set of eyes to make sure that the deeds are being correctly applied. And so that's one of the things that is a benefit to
So
have.
that sounds to be like giving this, you're gonna take this certification, this class. It's already what Hamlin is pretty much using.
Correct.
To me, this kind of supports the idea of giving Hamlin another year. We kind of see how this all
Yep.
germinates.
I can tell you the other piece of this is we never really have talked about, but one thing that I really like about Hamlin's is all that information online. That information being on our website, I will firmly believe that saves those ladies in that office hours. Because everything, I know people can still go in and do it, but I know every time somebody goes in there, it's conversation, it's questions, it's, you know what I mean? Whereas people are looking at that at home and not interrupting that office. So whether or not going forward a year or two from now, if we do move away from Hamlin's, I think that's another piece to that.
That's something you don't want to give up.
I don't want to give that piece up. Somehow, if we ever switch, we need to make sure that, I think that's a service we need to keep going.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it takes to do that, but I know it's pretty nice and handy to have
To put the property cards and stuff out there.
the tax maps.
Yeah, it can be done. It's just,
I mean, they're there now, it's not like,
Right.
I'm just saying that down the road, if we make a change, then it's another piece to that we need to, I would like to see us to make sure that we can pursue. That's all.
yeah.
And when you said the main assessor's manual, is it a manual, like so you have to go through a book, it's not on a
I'll go get it.
computer? Oh, So it's paper, oh my goodness. So that's what he uses.
He has
Yeah, it's a
software.
system.
He has
Okay,
software,
okay,
too.
okay.
So he has a whole computer system that's
That,
keeping track and,
I see.
yeah.
And then it dovetails into our limited trio real
Yep.
estate package.
Seems to work fine.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And we still save money.
Yeah, yeah. So, how long were you, did
Well,
Will?
this, I'm not sure, I think she's texted him,
Oh.
but I'm not sure what his status is.
Oh, that's too bad.
Ladies
Tom-
and
Tommy
gentlemen,
left?
thank you.
He's taking
All right,
off.
Tom.
Well, finish up my motorcycle ride.
Oh,
Yeah,
We'll see
nice.
how the
I
concert
was
is
gonna
doing.
say.
Oh,
I
there
say,
you
you gotta
go.
go to the concert.
Have a good night.
You too. Good night, Tom. Oh, okay. So there you go.
Yeah, so in the beginning, it talks about the grade of the building. There are 10 factors: foundation, interior structure, the 2x4 walls, or everything. So you take that and you do the grade, and it shows you how to do all of that. And then when you get up here, this is the grading.
Okay, and then it says, okay, they've got a front, they've got a front.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got
All your different
Oh,
types of
that's- yeah,
foundations.
yeah.
types.
yeah,
Roofing.
Heating systems.
Different.
yes,
Configuration.
yes, electricity, plumbing, everything, basement. So then it goes into your building and how to sketch, all that stuff. But then here, see, this is your residential, one-story dwelling, at which grade, and so you're gonna
Okay.
evaluate based on grade.
Okay.
And
Did you have to
then
buy
you-
those?
Do I have to buy this? Yes and no. When you go and take the class as a first-time person, if you're taking
I
like
didn't know
the
if the
review
assessors
class,
did.
Yeah, you mean
It's-
us?
it's $10.
Oh. So you're gonna go and not recertified.
Not
but-
recertified, but it's just a refresher, and I'm
Okay.
hoping by them doing this class, that means that they're gonna do an update, because this is
Oh,
July
yeah,
12th.
that would be nice.
So that's what my goal
Is Hamlin using this one,
This is-
2012?
Yeah, this is the only one that they've put out.
Okay.
So, and then up here, it has mobile homes, it has,
Yeah,
all your-
just-
if you have a deck, if you have a garage,
Mhm.
everything is in here.
Mhm.
So
Do we-
that's what Hamlin uses.
Is
I
there any
see.
way to get a hold of him to find out if he's coming or? are we talking?
Well, I texted him, and typically he gets,
Tommy's wife was right.
What?
He's not gonna show up.
is that what she said?
Yeah.
Just that.
He what?
Before we move on, so I guess we could ask Lois to reach out to Hamlin and let him know that we would like to reappoint him as the assessor's agent and provide him with a one-year contract.
Okay. Do we
And
need to-
she could remind him that he had quoted Dale a reduced rate.
Okay.
I think it was
12.
12,000.
12,000.
But just to confirm all that, so that the next meeting, she can have the paperwork ready for us to appoint him.
Okay.
So, do you want to, would that take a motion, or can this suggestion enough?
She doesn't need a motion until we approve it.
Right,
Okay?
So, did you hear that, Lois?
yeah.
Any response from Seth?
No,
Okay, I think.
All right, well,
What
see
what
if-
is it, a full professor is 10 minutes, or a tenured professor?
And then you can leave
Yeah,
from your class?
yeah, if they
Oh,
don't
no,
show.
see, in engineering, the professors show up. It's engineers.
Oh,
Right?
no, psychology class is totally different. Okay,
They
so.
never didn't show.
Well, I
That's
think,
pretty funny.
we need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? It's unanimous. We are adjourned.